Tales from the Tavern was recorded in front of a live Twitch audience.
I'm Commander Shepard, and Tales from the Tavern is my favorite stream on Twitch.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Tales from the Tavern. So good to see you all here again this week. I have a fantastic group of people, some familiar faces, some people who were just hanging out here last weekend for the Extra Life Charity Stream Weekend Extravaganza, and a few new people to the channel, some of which some people you might have seen around on YouTube. I don't know, just a thought. I'm going to let everybody go around and introduce themselves, and then if you're new to the channel, I will tell you a little about how this stream works. So, Adam, we're going to start with you. Tell us a little about who you are and what you're up to these days.
Hey, I'm Adam. If you're a fan of Twitter, I'm 34th Gingerbread on there, and I am a DM and professional writer. I mostly focus on 5e D&D. I do adventures, all kinds of stuff for different supplements. You'll see my work come up in Splinterverse a bunch and a few projects I can't really talk about. My main focus right now is Teldrimere, a world setting that is designed for people who are new and experienced in D&D, but for the storefront or schools or just large groups of people. I think that's it. I think that's just me.
I think so. Well, that's a lot. You've got a lot going on, so it's all good. Well, thanks for coming back on. I'm excited to get to chat with you again. The last time Adam was here, he got to answer the question, what flavor is a gelatinous cube? So that was fun. Shannon, tell us a little about you.
Is it lime? Is the gelatinous cube lime? I always assumed it was like lime. I'm Shannon, Glitz and Gamer. The spelling's on the overlay over on Twitter. I am a player on Roll for Chaos, which is my husband's and my channel. My Ty down there, RF Chaos, wrote all of the Aether and Steamworks, which is a TTRPG that you can see us playing on Thursdays and then on Fridays. And I'm in a bunch of one-shots when people ask me, and I basically try to do any excuse to do cosplay or make up my face to look like a different person, which is always fun. And you can stare at yourself, and it's that whole thing. Sometimes I do like tries, like Glitz tries, Tokyo treats, or drag, or whatever. I'm very, 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 very inconsistent on that, but those are around. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me again, Luna.
I'm so excited to have you back. Yes, if you haven't gotten to see Shannon do any of her cosplay stuff, the last one that I saw you do, the picture was you of the old woman. That was amazing.
Millie. Yeah. That was fun. I actually
amazing.
got to scare my children with that one, which was super exciting. So
I love it. Awesome. Jordan, the PH is silent. Tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, I'm Jordan with a silent PH in the middle. And I am probably mostly well known for my YouTube channel on Dungeons & Dragons lore. So if you're curious about the Forgotten Realms or Eberron or Spelljammer, there's lots of stuff there that you can watch and then help yourself as a dungeon master to run games. That's the whole point. But I occasionally play tabletop RPGs on Twitch. I ran a long game during pandemic called The Rod of Seven Parts, where I updated a 2e game to 5e, which was really fun. And I kind of just collect RPGs and play a lot of them and try out different systems when I can. So
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out tonight. I'm excited to get to chat with you a little bit.
yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Jamie, tell us a little about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Jamie Mansour. I use she, her pronouns. On Twitter, you'll probably know me as Jamie Moonchild. Let's see, by day, I'm a DEI professional, and by night, but it's really all the time. Huge D&D fanatic. I've been playing for maybe almost 5 years now, and I've been on a few episodes for Awfully Queer Heroes when they were doing podcasts. And I have been developing a D&D world that is inspired by Hawaiian culture, the Hawaiian sovereignty movement, the different cultures that are present in Hawaii. And I'm very excited to one day turn this world into a podcast with my incredible team of players who all identify as LGBTQ+ and also as Indigenous. And that's about it for me.
I'm super excited for that, and I can't wait for you to get that off the ground when you're good and ready for it. So, yay!
Thanks.
Nicola, nice to see you.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Nicola, Nicola the Druid on Twitter. I'm in way too many projects because that's how I am. But you can find me over at, as the community manager for T4C Studios, a newly launched combination from the creators of Dragon's Duel and How Not to DM. We're going to be launching our channel shortly. We already have a show up there called Roll of Cool, entirely cast, run, produced, the whole 9 yards, as a from the Philippines. And it is a story about Philippine culture, and it is absolutely beautiful. But you can also find me as an extended family member over at Good Better Quest, where I will be taking over at the end of August to run a charity stream for my birthday. So I'm very excited about
That
it.
is exciting. What charity are you going to be playing for? Do you know yet?
Yes, actually, so I'm doing it for the one that I actually work for. By day, I'm an accountant for a domestic violence shelter. And so we're going to... We're gonna raise money for that one because I absolutely love my job and it's the best place.
I love that so much. I also work for a nonprofit that does social services. That's my background. So I am, yay. Go you. That's awesome. All right. I am Gamer Mom Luna. This is Tales from the Tavern. If you have never been here before, let me tell you a little about how this stream works. So basically what happens is all of our questions come from you, the amazing chat. So if you have a question for our panel here, I've already seen a couple come in, so we've got some stuff to run with already. If you have a question for people here in chat, please feel free to drop that right in chat. We've got moderators that will take care of making sure that we get to see your question, and we'll get a chance to talk about it. Hopefully, if we don't get too many, sometimes it goes that way. If you would like to make sure that you get your question in before the end of the night and you have 1,000 channel points banked up, you can use the Ask My Question Next feature. That will bump your question up to the next one in the queue. So that way, when we are done talking about whatever question we are on, we will take yours next instead of the next one in line. So that is available for you too. I'm just going to throw this out there because it got redeemed for the first time in 3 years that I have been streaming. Pyrotex Core has racked up 100,000 channel points and redeemed a piece of free merch. So I'm a little like, oh my god, I didn't know anybody had that many channel points racked up, but here we are. So so that's very exciting, and so that's available too. And then also, as always, the treats for kitties option is there, and Nicola is getting in on that one tonight too. She came prepared with kitty treats for her kitties as well. So yes, all right, we're gonna dive right in. The first question we're gonna start with actually comes from Ty RF Chaos, because Ty used the Ask My Question Next. So Ty's question is, give us your favorite NPC pet you've ever had in a game. I have an answer for this right off the bat. It wasn't a pet so much as it was a random ooze that I got in a Starfinder game. We named it Oozy Oozeborn, and I just carried him around in a jar. It was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah, it was like
It's all about the funny names.
Oh,
like,
totally.
you gotta have those
Yeah.
names for.
Well, what was even greater is I ended up winning a commissioned piece of art from somebody on Twitter. So I had this character drawn because it was the only character I was playing at the time, and it was it was only like a 4-week like mini campaign. So I had this character drawn, and it's great because the jar, she was for anybody who knows Starfinder, she was a like a rat folk, and so the jar with the ooze in it is almost as big as she is, and yeah, so it was pretty great. Yeah, it was like this metallic ooze that was essentially like the equivalent of like a rust monster.
I played a conjuration wizard in 5e that had a find familiar, but like I didn't want a regular familiar. I wanted something silly. So we found a third party that had rules for a piggy bank. So it's like a construct that you summon, and it walks around like a pig, but it has an interdimensional space so it can eat coins. And then if it got above a certain threshold of money in it, it would have disadvantage on stealth checks because of the like noise, and that messed us up a lot. Where the party is like, "Can you quiet your pig?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry." I was like really greedy, so it was just not going to happen to get rid of the money. And that was fun. Penny was her name. Penny the pig.
I played a Pathfinder game where we had two pet piglets.
I love it.
Yeah, and we used to take them around on leashes. They were Hamlet and Bacon.
My players are.
Yeah,
you can go first. I was gonna say that my player's not responsible enough for a pet.
Oh, I'm not thinking maybe that's what my DM thinks of us, because we don't really get pets. We adopt NPCs all the time. But in the game that I DM, I have given them like, I introduced them. They rescued some of these Blink puppies that have now grown into Blink dogs. But there's an NPC who is basically my self-insert that they see maybe once a year. And that NPC has a Noggle beetle, which is from the Underground Oracle. And it's this giant beetle that grows mushrooms on its back. And its name is Boop. And every time I describe them, like, going into this druid's little office, I describe Boop, and they all go, ugh. And to me, that's the best. Because I love this little Noggle beetle more than anything in the world. And next time they shiver at it, maybe she doesn't heal them.
Well,
Womp womp.
I cannot think of I can think of 100,000 different, like, if I can have a pet in a game, whether it's a TTRPG or like a role-playing game, like computer game or video game or whatever, I will have it. And my favorite pet I can remember was actually World of Warcraft, and I was a hunter, and it was Vanilla WoW, because I'm old. The original Vanilla WoW, not, like the re-release Vanilla WoW, but when it was actually vanilla. I had a night elf hunter, and I wanted they had these hyenas in the Barren Lands, and it was quite a hike for a night elf to get to the Barren Lands. So I like made my way up there after I think it was level 10 or 12 when I could first get my pet. I went all the way over there. I died like 5 times, had to, get my little ghost ball and get back to my corpse and then get it. And then I had that. I still, if I logged into my character today, still have that hyena, and his name was Thyrian, and I can't remember what that meant, but it was something clever at the time, and he was ugly. And then they changed the skin. They redid it like 4 or 5 years ago, and they logged in, and it was not my Thyrian. It was like they redid the hyena skins, and I was extremely upset, like way more upset than a person should be over a collection of pixels. Like, very upset. So I must have loved him.
I didn't have a pet per se, but there was a home game that a friend of mine was DMing for Rime of the Frost Maiden, and I played Drake Warden Ranger. And so the Drake that I had was this fuzzy white dragon with rainbow stripes, and I called her Sunshine. And she was my pride and joy. Love bringing her out and seeing her little token because of the rainbow whenever she would come up on the screen. And she really helped us out with some of the things that she was able to augment for the attacks and whatnot. Really love Sunshine. She was so adorable.
I instantly love Sunshine.
Me too.
She loves you too.
Aww.
Aw.
I love it. I think it's really funny. Chad is always getting in on all of these conversations. So Ty would like to know, Shannon, what about Cream?
What about Cream?
Yep. CREM.
Oh God. Oh, Creme.
Creme. Okay.
That's Creme. Creme. Creme was Aether and okay. I was very confused. I'm like, okay, like, and so I have ADHD, so sometimes I do forget things from like that are important, and then someone's like, oh yeah, that is a thing. But in this case, I was very confused. Creme was the Tinker Toy companion to my character, who was a goblin, who was named Brulee. So I had Creme and Brulee.
Cute.
And Creme actually, in the very end of things, it's horrible that Ty would bring it up, because at the end of things, Creme actually saved the entire like Aether sphere, the whole universe basically within the game. But also died. Like the only thing that was left was their little arms. So it was like hanging onto the side of the boat. So thanks for the trauma, Ty.
Ty.
I'll never let go, Jack.
I know. And literally, they didn't, but the rest of the body didn't hang on with the arms.
So sad.
I know.
Aww.
It's okay. It's fine. In another timeline, they're still around.
Ty's really good at like just running games that make everybody cry, so it's okay.
I'm impressed so many of you have had pets in your campaigns, period, because my players, they know exactly the types of people they are, and they'll be like, yeah, we like this dog, let's not interact with it, let's stay far away from it, let's leave it here, or like, this thing's really cute, like, time to move on quickly before like we do something.
Yeah,
there is kind of, well, I would say an unspoken rule, but kind of not an unspoken one, because I don't unspeak anything. Pet deaths or animals in general, like, you can massacre all the people you want, as far as I'm concerned, in a game, to be clear. But animals, it's sacred. Like, don't go after the pets. So if I'm with a GM I don't trust, I will not have a pet. But if it's someone that I'm like, hey, you know, like, this means a lot to me, can we not just arbitrarily kill my pet? Then I will. You know, there's trust there.
My current favorite character that I'm playing, has a squirrel familiar, and I love this familiar so much, I literally got a tattoo of them.
Oh my god, cute!
Yes.
So now the question
the tattoo where
can
you
we
show?
Can we see it on stream or no?
Yes, ish. It's so tiny. Okay, so there is a little bitty story. Is that there is a tattoo shop here where I'm based in Tucson that is a nonprofit tattoo shop. Everything that they do is donated to other charities in the area. But they constantly have these flash sheets that are $20 all the time, and they put one up of this little squirrel, and I was like, I have to have that. And so I ended up going and getting two put together for two of my different characters. And so you're going to see my bra strap, but yeah, I got it on my shoulder.
Aww.
There's my little squirrel, and then the leaf for my other druid.
Oh my
Aw.
gosh, it's so cute.
That's adorable.
And I had it on my right shoulder because the character has a prosthetic arm, and there's a little hole in the arm that the squirrel rides around in. And so I got it on my left arm.
That's amazing.
That is.
I love that.
That's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Clever. Very clever. All right, let's see. So the next question that we got was another Ask My Question Next. So this one came in from Lord Richter, and the question is, what game have you played that has made you roll the most dice or the least dice, and which was the most fun?
I can. So Exalted is it's White Wolf. It's related to Vampire the Masquerade, so it's a D10 system. And when you get higher levels on the D10 system, as you level up, you fill out your bubbles and you get more to roll. There was one point or another with skills and everything. I think it was 74 dice that I rolled. And instead of doing it 10 at a time, we basically just tried to find all the D10s that we could. And so I got to roll this entire thing, And that was fun. Not super practical, but the sound and satisfaction of rolling that many dice is, I have to say, it was pretty incredible. I'll never forget the sound.
That's pretty epic, yeah.
I had to look up the
68
name. I
dice.
forgot. It's not 68 dice. That's just too many. But there's a game called Vaesen that is by Freely Games, and it's kind of like Hellboy style of game where you're like a group of paranormal people, and you go and make sure that fairies and swamp monsters are staying clear of humanity. And so a lot of times it's like a negotiation to try to get them to go away or something. It's not outright attacking. But it's a D6 system, and if everything kind of aligns, then you drop like tons of D6s because you're just looking for a 6 is a success. So like you're like, okay, I've got 3 successes or something. And I think we had I don't know, there were times we were dropping like 10 D6s, and it's a lot of like roll off the table kind of fun, but it's a good game. It's a really good game. I recommend it.
Yeah, 10 is the most I've ever had to do it once as well. And I technically didn't have to do it. I just did it to scare my players because we play audio only, and they were fighting something kind of like a modified version of a Hydra that I had created. And if one of the heads got off one of their beams, then it was 10d10. And the first time somebody got in the way of one, I just dropped the 10d10 next to my microphone just to scare them. I realize now that I scare my players a lot. We're unpacking things here tonight. Oh no.
Yeah.
The rest of the night I just clicked the button on Shard. But the first time I was like, it's so satisfying, all those D10s.
Mm-hmm. We should make an app. Just dice
Or
rolling
dice sounds?
Dice rolling sounds.
Yeah.
Sounds.
Dice sounds.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Yeah.
I bet you could charge for that.
You could yeah.
Like 99 cents, but man,
Yeah.
make a killing.
100 dice rolling.
See all
We
the
need
comments
Dice
now.
on
They're like,
hell. Dice
this doesn't
on
even
wood.
roll dice. It's
Yeah.
just noise.
It's just noise.
Yeah, there's no actual number system or roll system in it. It's just the sound.
It's just the sound.
Mhm.
You
Someone
select
like
the
that.
material
It's
and
a
like what
soundboard,
type
yeah.
of dice and like
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
This
soundboard
doesn't
where
sound
it's
like a
like
D10.
1d6 and you tap the button, and then it's like 15d6 and you tap the button.
But that would make a difference. These are bone D6.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
are, yeah.
You could
15
change
metal
ceramic
sound,
D6.
metal
Yeah.
d6
on carpet. You're
on
like, okay.
carpet.
Right. On
On
tile.
carpet, on felt, on wood.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're just
We just-
describing an ASMR app.
Which is
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, that's the only
ASMR
ASMR,
for
I
dice
think I would
goblins.
fall asleep to.
ASMR
Dice,
for
dice MR. There you go.
Dice.
Dice.
You guys, are we all gonna be rich
That one's
now?
free, internet.
We are.
You're welcome.
TM. We're gonna do this.
All right, and there is my video crop for tonight's episode. All right, I think I have an answer for the least dice. Probably the Quest RPG system is just a D20. That's it. So it's the only one. Everything else is done like, by you have X number of points. This does X amount of damage every time you cast it. It's not based on a dice roll. So, yeah.
Have you had those sessions where you just don't end up rolling dice? I'm trying to think of a session where
I mean,
we maybe rolled like 3 dice because everyone was just like interacting, and it's like, no, you made a good argument. I'm gonna let it ride.
I'm gonna let it ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Vertrox just came up with a name for our app. It's called Dice Decibel now.
Yes.
Oh,
That's a good one.
okay, we'll keep him.
All right.
You get a lot of diceless sessions after like a big aftermath event, and everyone needs to talk it out and
Yeah.
Mhm.
plan a little bit.
Jason in chat just said to like Critical Role shopping episode.
Yeah.
I've got a fun one for the least dice. This was a game DM'd by Nikki from Beholder to No One, and it's called Lewd Grannies.
Oh
Super
my
fun.
God, yes.
1 or 2 d20s. You get assigned a vice. You and your party, a bunch of these old grannies who have to try to get away with these pretty insane things at a wedding. Ooh, yeah, that was a really interesting game.
I think I heard about that when she was getting ready to DM it, and I was like, that sounds fantastic.
It was so much fun. I don't think it ended up airing because we had one of the players do something pretty
Risque.
interesting. Yes.
Lewd.
Lewd.
Yeah, very lewd.
That's funny.
Well, I have to say, literally anyone who's listening to this, if they ever GM that game and they need a player, please call me. I want to play a lewd old lady.
Same.
I was like, you would be so good at that, Shannon. Oh my God.
It's just because it's my future goal. I want to indeed be a vulgar old lady. 'Cause that's when you can do it and get away with it, right? When you're all cute and adorable and you're just like, oh hey, and then screw you, you can just go off.
All right. Okay, so the next question that we have from chat is from Jason, and Jason would like to know, what idea have you borrowed from something in your life outside of RPGs and used it for a game or a character? Dun dun dun. I feel some trauma coming on right now.
Well, I've got one I can share that's pretty. So I mentioned earlier that I have this world that was inspired by Hawaiian culture, and really a big focus of it is the Hawaiian sovereignty movement and fighting off colonialism, literally, eventually. And what I did in this setting is I took a set of, they're called makahiki games, which are like, makahiki season is like the harvest season. It ushers in the new year. So it's these big festivals and really fun Native Hawaiian games that people get together and play. So I took a few of these games and I turned them into something that we could actually play in game, figured out what the dice rolls would be, what the checks would have to be. And so they did things from tandem surfing, which, fun fact, that was invented in Hawaii. There's also like the Hawaiian version of bowling and sparring, like fighting and stuff. We had such a blast, had no idea what I was throwing them into, especially with the tandem surfing, but they rolled with it, had to, give a little leeway because it ended up being a little too hard, but it was such a fun thing to do.
That sounds really cool.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome.
Thanks.
I was trying to think, but then something you said reminded me that 2 years ago I literally hosted an entire stream about bowling. So, definitely did bowling.
What? You did a bowling stream? No way. I was not there.
The new thing, the one that's going to be for our charity stream coming next month, that Vertrox actually wrote and I translated into readable text, is called Weave Racers, and it is essentially, short version, it's a Mario Kart-esque TTRPG. And so, that's about the extent of the non-trauma things that I have pulled from the real world.
I'm now imagining Mario Kart-esque D&D. That sounds pretty incredible.
It's amazing. We've been playtesting it. We still need playtesters. It's not, there's absolutely nothing Mario related in it. It is essentially going through the multiverse. You go through all these different portals. It's run by Vertrox, and his character, Professor Percival Penumbra Pissage, created this, and so he does this whole thing. It's so much fun. Anyway, we're playtesting the heck out of it because it's so fun.
Jordan, you were trying to say something?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Adam.
Oh, was it Adam? Okay.
That was Adam.
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Okay, don't worry. It's chaos. I was gonna say, as far as like non-traumatic experiences in an RPG, probably just like diversity in general. Like just like double checking over and over again that whatever experience I'm tossing my players into is something that they'll be able to either relate to or understand. Because I'm probably sure that Jamie, designing your game, it's hard when you have someone outside of a culture stepping into a culture and not even having them maybe not respect it the way they should, but not understand even what they're approaching. There are so many different like elements of the real world that are already ingrained in the RPGs that we play. That whenever at least I'm designing content, I try to ask myself like, okay, if I'm going to be doing a adventure around like a very veiled K-pop group, then I need to make sure that my references, that my like what players will like understand and connect to, that they'll be able to like bridge that gap without like accidentally like missing the links or unintentionally like disrespecting it.
That's a really important point. And in fact, that is the reason why I have the team that I have now. The idea first came up to bring my world through Awfully Queer Heroes when they had the podcast. And they came to me and essentially they said, Jamie, we love this world and it's so important. We're also all white. And we think that it would be such an incredible opportunity if you were able to bring in POC Indigenous players to go through this world instead. As much as they wanted to do it, they also recognized that even while just role playing, that they would be white people role playing these very important Indigenous inspired characters and going through this world, which I very much appreciated. Because very rarely I would not have the players that I have today had they not taken that opportunity to step back to allow them to step in.
And it's very noticeable. I'm just gonna when we launched Roll of Cool, and everything except the only thing I was doing was social media, because that's just what I was involved in. Within a day of the show launching, somebody commented and they say, well, we can tell your social media site is not run by somebody from the Philippines because they're using the wrong time zone description. And we're like, oh crap, we didn't think of that. And now that specific page is run by somebody on the show who took on that duty. But like that kind of thing is very, very important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I personally haven't run into stuff like in that regard. So I guess a real life thing for me is I am a recovering arachnophobic. And I say recovering because like when I was a kid, I was like I would see a spider outside and it would be 10 feet away from me and I would start screaming kind of kid. And now I'm like, oh, I walked through a spider web. Okay, that's a little freaky, and then get on with my day. Or, like, oh, there's a spider in the bathroom. I'm just gonna let it do its thing and pretend it's not there. But like for me, I think getting into games, like I've had I've played a Pathfinder game where we literally got trapped in a room that was filled with spiders, and I was like, nope, I am done. I am out. Like I am not doing this. And so like that's just one of those things that for me, like I don't know, it's kind of a weird, like if it's something for me, like if it's like a realistic looking or described spider of some kind, that's when I'm like, nope. But if it's like definitely an artificial, metal, robotic, something like that, like that's totally different, because I'm like, that is not coming for me in my sleep, But I think that's the kind of thing that I bring in. So you know, oddly enough, all my characters are arachnophobic. Weird how that works.
You just bring your fears to the game.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
Gives you the chance to work through them.
Sure.
I think that's super valid. Like, I don't know. I'm not cool enough to get invited to streams, so I have to do all my DMing with total strangers. Not all, but with my friends too. But when you're DMing for like a group of people that you've never met before or don't know, anytime I'm writing an adventure, I have to say to myself, like, is this going to be the one where someone's afraid of lizards and there's a lizard in this, right? Like, what am I going to do? Like, is this hallway like too thin? Like when I describe it, so you have to have those conversations and lines and veils and red cards like come up often, and it's very easy for you to think of examples that are like gore related or you know, like really, really obvious ones are often approached, but very often people don't talk about the player who is afraid of a spider mini that you've brought with you and you've put on the table without thinking about it, right? Like that's just something where you kind of have to say, like, okay, like who here might have like a secret phobia, and I've accidentally triggered them, and they're not going to say anything because this is just a dumb game and no one should be upset about it, right? Like it's complicated.
Yeah, it kind of is. Although, I mean, I'm lucky in that a lot of the games that I play, we don't use minis. You know, like the first 10 years of my TTRPG life was mainly all theater of the mind. And if we needed to like illustrate a scenario, it was like, okay, so the enemy is this quarter, right? And like you're the green D6 and you're the red D4, and like, you know, like that was kind of how it was all set up on the table. So I never really had to worry about it then. Now it's more like if I'm using a VTT and somebody's gonna pop a picture of an enemy, like I literally had a DM one time that we were fighting like this giant spider, and they popped the picture up, no warning, popped the picture up on the screen, and I was like, nope, close that. And he was like, oh, let me reopen that for you. I'm like, nope, please don't. and it literally took me like DMing him behind the scenes like, no, really, please stop doing that. So yeah, it is one of those things though that like you don't think about it sometimes, especially because something like spiders is very prevalent in a lot of TTRPGs. But
because people are afraid of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't ever I don't have any phobias like in real life. I'm uncomfortable with some claustrophobic stuff, but I always feel bad. I get really upset and I don't want to. I don't put it as a line or veil or anything because I don't want to be upset about things, but I hate when I'm mind controlled or I can't speak. Like if there is a like there's a thing and it's like I'm now under the control of da-da-da-da and you're doing the thing. I'm like, you'll see Shannon just trying really hard to stay calm, going, okay, I know that this is an RPG and it is fine and it is literally fine. And I don't want to be having a problem, but it's visceral, you know, like it's a visceral trigger. And the same with talking, like it's fun at first and I'm like, oh, I can pantomime. And then it's like,
yeah,
you know, like rage on the inside. I hate it. Those are the things. But like fear of other stuff.
I think that's why those safety things exist though too, is because you're like, I don't really think I need to tell anybody about this, or you don't even recognize it about yourself. But then when you know that those tools are in place, you can be like, I really want to talk. I'm gonna throw out an X card here and say, can we somehow bypass this scene because it's really annoying me?
Yeah.
Or like making me feel uncomfortable for whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know, having again that trust thing of going like, okay, I can deal with this because I know I don't have to. Like I know I can say desist, stop, no longer will Shannon's character be mind controlled and she'll be able to talk. Like I have that out card I can play, so I'm okay with dealing with it. If I didn't have that trust, it would be a lot worse, you know, like then there's a helplessness feeling on top of the helplessness feeling that I'm already feeling. You know?
Yeah.
You gotta trust your GM, DM person to stop when you say stop.
Sort of going back,
literally anyone.
Yeah, going back to what I was just saying too about like spiders and phobias like that in general. Like I think I'm the same way. Like I I'm very open about the fact that I am not a fan of spiders. But that said, I also don't put them on my lines and veils because I'm like, it's a stupid game. Like, this shouldn't be a problem, you know? So it's kind of funny because it's like sometimes if it's like a cartoony type, like, doesn't bother me. Like, that's okay. You know, it's when you start getting like the, you know, the illustrations or, you know, the minis that are very realistic or that sort of thing. That's when I'm kind of like, all right.
But you should also know too, right? Like when you go into a game, if you were signed up for a game and it was like, we're gonna have a fun fantasy adventure, and then you sit at the table and it's like, welcome to Webga,
Yeah.
land of the legged, behold the spider
Call
queen.
my planet the 8 planets of Arachnid or something.
Yeah.
Or
The
it's
web
like,
moons
oh, we're
have a
going to go on a
line.
jolly seafaring adventure, and you show up and they're like, okay, the system is the darkest thing you could possibly imagine. You're like, what?
Yeah.
We were just sailing. Like,
right. Yeah.
I've been catfish.
Season 4 of Stranger Things did not sit well with me. So
I haven't seen it yet.
Did they
I
go
won't
sailing? I
Yeah.
don't remember that, but
No spoilers.
no spoilers, but I'll just say there were parts of season 4 that did not sit well. I was like, oh god, this is not
that's
okay.
season 5 where they're on a boat for like,
just them on a boat. You know what? They deserve it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
go on a cruise, guys.
Just
Like,
nice.
get out of town,
Just get
have
out.
some fun.
Yeah.
Go get a sunburn.
Yeah.
Fine.
Oh my gosh.
I just thought of a pop culture reference that I did include in one of my games.
Oh yeah.
My players, they were following this plot line, and this happened. I don't even remember what the plot was, but they had to. One option was for them to go to this person, and this person was going to give them like a fetch quest to get what they want, and they ended up going a completely opposite direction with the plot. And I was so mad because the fetch quest, I had written out this whole beautiful, like, hidden thing. And it was essentially to go get a slowpoke tail. Because in Pokemon, slowpoke tails grow back. And so it's like a hidden delicacy. And so I put slowpoke tails are now canon in my world, that they're a delicacy. And slowpokes, I guess, too. Because you can, them's grow back. Pokemon.
Like a gecko tail.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love geckos. It's not a point of anything other than they're just adorable.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Vertrox would like to know, what is a favorite inside joke from a campaign you have run or play in, and the story behind it?
well, they're inside jokes. They won't really translate. You had to be there.
So
And
I don't
you
know
know-
if this counts as an inside joke, but so my partner was DMing, and I think this was my very first, one of my first campaigns that I ever played in. And his mom also plays. She's one of my favorite adventuring companions. And at the time, I didn't understand yet how perception rolls actually worked. I thought it was like, well, you rolled too low, so you think this is what you see, but it's actually this, is what I thought. And so we were being chased by assassins. He had us roll perception checks. She rolled really low, and so she saw this beautiful bird, and he went to great detail about this bird, and it was gorgeous. And I kind of convinced her, and she also agreed that this wasn't a bird that we thought we are seeing, that it had to be one of the assassins. So she knocks an arrow and like overkills it. And then all of this plumage goes flying, and we're sitting there like, oh, you mean it really was a bird? So now we talk about killing birds
Oh no.
on accident.
We had a monk that was following the god Savris in the Forgotten Realms, who's the god of divination and sees things, and every bad roll or every good roll kind of became, oh, that must be the will of Savris. Like, that's what it was. And then that came even further to our real lives, where it's like, oh yeah, I was late for work today. Oh, it must have been the will of Savris. Like, and so that's always funny when it transcends the game and your friends call you up and they're like, oh, Savris just, he played me like a fool today, but you know, that's what he does. He's the will of Savris. So
I have to catch myself. it was years ago, like really, really early on in when I started playing. But one of the guys that I played with he was playing a dwarf, and I don't remember why, but every time he had to say the number 12 in character, he would always say 12, 12, 12. And so now, anytime I have to say the number 12, I have to stop myself from going 12. And I'm like, because nobody else is going to get it except for him. And I see him maybe once a year, So, like, it's like sometimes I have to really stop and think about it. I'm like, oh, no, nobody else in the room is going to understand that reference.
Vertrox always asks that question every time I'm here. And I can never think of but I did just think of one. One of our players, we constantly joke with her if she's going to poke something in the eye, because we were in this big dramatic thing where we were like, this NPC her title was the future Moon Queen, and she was like getting some sort of power divine thing was being pushed into her body, but the player didn't like get that's what was happening, and she misunderstood and thought this was hurting her. And so the NPC's eyes are like glowing and like all of this energy is coming. So she pokes her in the eye to stop the thing because she thinks it's hurting the NPC. But then it like went into this whole big thing because then the power went into the character and yada yada. But once that was all wrapped up, we're like, is that a thing now? Do you poke things in the eye? So even out of the game, we're like, should poke him in the eye? Like, poke him in the eye? And then the very last session, she actually did just poke somebody in the eye. So we circled back right around to that.
Prophecy fulfilled.
Prophecy fulfilled.
Poke, poke.
I played a character one time who was really stupid, and we were doing a campaign where basically we had these keys, and the way that the keys worked is essentially they would let you into the dream world, but you had to touch them to somebody's, like head, whatever. But my character didn't quite understand that, and so she shoved it up somebody's nose, and so that became a long-standing joke for a long, like something would happen, somebody would get like a cold or whatever and sneeze, and I'd be like, what's the matter? You got a key up your nose? Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I got a friend who likes to give us all of the rules when we're playing board games, and we usually give him a hard time about it because there's two versions of the rule. One is the first read through where he gets like 20% of them wrong, and then the second is where he has to correct himself playing the game properly, which like gives him accidental advantages. So we rag on him a lot for that, but we're playing D&D and he makes his character and he's playing a wizard. He obviously read all the rules himself, said he didn't need any help, and after a year or so of playing his wizard, we determined that like he's casting so many different spells that like one of us was just like, wait a second, like how are you doing this? And he's like, it's a level 1 spell, I just have it, right? We're like, how many level 1 spells do you have? And he's like, all of them, like they're level 1, they're not that big a deal, like it's a level 1 spell. So after discovering that he had known every spell in existence for a large majority of this campaign, we were like, maybe let's tone that back just like a tiny bit, like maybe just pick a few spells. So now obviously anytime there's a situation that occurs, he's asked what spells he has, like can't he just do it all? This is carried over into his other classes. We ask how many class abilities he has frequently. When they're in a tight jam, they just ask him to like take paladin stuff right now. Like, what does it matter? It's level 1, right? Like you just do a smite.
I think I will adopt that and try that at some point or another when I am. Oh, there are level 1 spells, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Got 100.
So casual.
Yeah.
I was convinced. I was like, yeah, level 1 does suck. Why don't you have it all? Like,
yeah, why not?
as well.
Yeah.
I think actually you could get away with that with cantrips and just be like, oh,
It's true.
I just know all of them.
Yeah. Every single one.
They're all in one book. I checked it out from the library.
One can.
One can. One can.
Oh no. And chat was nicely reminding me, anybody who saw the episode of Tales from the Tavern about the arm-length rubber gloves. If you don't know what that was about, that was an episode a few months ago where somebody asked the question in chat, what do you do when you're DMing and your players do something that causes you to need to pivot really quickly, you know? And one of the guests that was on says, okay, so you know those arm-length rubber gloves that vets use when birthing calves? And one of the other guests goes, oh, wait a second. Runs off camera, comes back with a pair of arm-length rubber gloves. And we were like, and that's what you do. Like, that's how you handle a situation when your players trip you up and you need to pivot really quickly. You pull out a pair of arm-length rubber gloves and you run with it, you know? And so now that's sort of become an ongoing joke / question here where... Thankfully, I haven't seen Wolfsplit in chat tonight, so you all might be off the hook. So I won't say what the question is, but yeah, that was very entertaining.
As someone who has worked in the veterinary field and grew up with horses and things, you know that's not a great thing to have to do, right? Like,
it's really bad.
Oh, yeah, it's not. It's weird. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Necessary, very weird. You guys are very strange over here.
It's true. Absolutely, it's true.
I just now noticed after 3 years, Luna, that you're a little weird.
We've only known each other for 3 years.
Oh, we have so
only
many
played a
similar
campaign
weird.
together.
I know. God.
Oh man. Okay. I think we can probably sneak in one more question before we take a break. So this one is another one that actually comes from Ty. Give us your most humorous memory from a TTRPG. Oh god, I know one. So I was playing a Pathfinder game, and we were using the crit fail. We were using a crit fail and crit success table, and the enemy that we were fighting rolled nat 1, and so the DM rolled on the crit fail table, and the NPC that we were fighting, the enemy we were fighting, ended up punching himself in the crotch and stunning himself for 4 rounds. And yeah, we won that fight really easy after that, because we were like, yeah, we're just gonna leave now. Bye. And I mean, we were laughing so hard, and like, chat, it was a streamed game, chat was laughing. I mean, it was like one of those things that at the time we just couldn't believe that was what had happened, because this guy was absolutely pummeling us. Like, we were getting our butts handed to us, and yep, that was pretty entertaining.
Weird.
Had a
most recent
friend-
one that, oh,
Oh gosh!
No.
Oh,
you've
what
been
do we?
talking way less.
You gotta roll off.
Go.
Yeah, gotta roll down.
Yeah.
No, I had a friend who had disadvantage fighting. Well, in a game we were fighting scarecrows, like typical monster, but they have fear effects and stuff. And so I was like, well, you can't get closer because of the fear effect. You can attack, but you have disadvantage. And he rolled 2 natural 20s on disadvantage, which was awesome. And so we were laughing so hard because the idea was like, okay, you put the sword in its head and go, ah! Like, you just, and that's, you thoroughly kill it with your natural 20, but you did so out of fear. And so
That's great.
It was a success.
there's probably others. It's so hard to think of because you play so many games, and then someone asks a question like this and you're like, I don't know. We laughed yesterday, but what was it? Like,
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of what I was going to say. I mean, there's so many times when I've left a session, whether in real life or streaming, where like my abdominal muscles are sore from laughing so hard, and like my face feels like it's being pulled because I've just been laughing. But I can't think of a single example of one of those at this very moment.
Oh, I got one.
All right.
We need questions ahead of time, and then I can.
We
plot
need
it
these
out.
random questions ahead of time, Luna.
Yeah. Chat, get on that.
I agree.
Yeah. Towards the beginning of my campaign that I'm DMing, I was throwing in a whole bunch of wild magic things as kind of a hint that the thing that they were gonna, well, they didn't ever catch on to the fact that that was happening, because the thing that was happening was the veil between the material plane and the Feywild was getting weakened. And that's their big thing that they have to fix with the BBEG and all that jazz. So at one point, they had these wild magic apples. And some of the apples, they ended up turning into a mead. And that was a whole thing. But one of the characters ate one of the apples. And the effect he got was that he closed every door behind him when he went through it. And this was going to happen for like one whole day. So I was like, okay, well now anytime you go through a door, I have to get a marching order because like this door is going to shut on somebody. And we were laughing so hard because for some reason the wizard was always right behind him. He was a dwarf, cleric, and he was a little bit brash. But the wizard, necromancer, elf was always behind him going through the door. So he would always shut the door in her face and make her make a dexterity saving throw. She would always fail it. And for almost the entire session, she was repeatedly getting hit with these doors. And we were all laughing uncontrollably because I'm like, y'all can, if you figured this, like you can figure it out and put him last in the order. And they're like, no, we're good. We're good. And repeatedly kept getting hit with doors.
I mean, once things become tradition, it's hard to break the habit, you know?
Stay with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it's
Oh yeah,
working,
that
go with it.
character now there's a long running joke about doors, and I ended up putting a door mimic in because it was funny.
That's diabolical.
I fought one of those one time. I managed to put it to sleep.
There are door mimics? I'm my like
Anything.
D&D.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything could be a mimic.
If you're
I don't
brave
like
enough.
that. I don't like that
There's
at all.
there's a stat block for an entire town of just everying being a
it's
mimic.
So cool. I
Ooh.
want
You've never tried the outhouse mimic? That's the best
Oh
one.
God!
it. Whoa. Writing that
Okay,
down.
so you
outhouse
hit.
mimic.
I guess I said I had no phobias. I have one, and it's vault toilets and outhouses. Because when I was a little kid, I was walking around and I saw one of the outhouses had fallen in. Like no one was in it, but you know when you're little and that seed just plants, and then it's like, oh God, what if I had been in that toilet at that time? So still, as an adult, I can't sit. I have to hover. So that comment, a mimic outhouse. Not okay. That should not exist in anyone's mind.
It exists in mine now.
I know. I like now it's.
I was like, I just saw all of your faces go, that's going in my next game.
Yeah.
I
think it was in. I had that same thing where I was like, oh, I didn't know everything could be a mimic, but I remember reading one of my third-party monster books had mimics that were bear traps. And so I had this idea of like, well, what if you just fill a room with everything's a mimic except the chest in the center? And so they're like the most obvious thing would be that the chest is going to be the mimic, but then everything else is, and they're like, is this even worth it? It's probably a mimic, right? You're like, I don't know, but it's a big shiny golden chest. I probably should go in.
Oh,
Do you
I
all
always
want
thought that'd be a fun counter. So
that would be fun.
a quick mimic subplot here for a second? Because
Go
I
for it.
got a mimic story.
Go for it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
So this is the worst dungeon I've ever made, and I didn't intend for it to turn out this way, but my players failed it, every part of it, so terribly that I didn't make any changes, that I was just like, let's just see like how much worse it'll get. And one particular room caught them was a mimic who was sentient, just a treasure chest, and he had cool stuff inside of him, but he didn't want to give it up. He wanted to trade it for something else. So you just had to feed him something else, and he would give you something else. They did this a couple times. They didn't really find anything like super great to trade, but they were like, let's just come back to this guy because he's pretty cool. Then there was a room ahead that was just a bunch of, it was like an interior graveyard. And I thought it would be funny, because surely they would learn their lesson, if I just had everything in there kind of be a mimic. The tombstones, the benches, like a little gazebo. And mimics are super sticky. Like that's one of the things about them, is they're adhesive. Like you get stuck to them and then they chomp you. So my players were getting stuck to everything. Like there was not a single thing that they would walk on, because it was all mimics. I was just like, they'll learn their lesson. They'll stop going forward, right? They kept going. They had tombstones stuck to them. They had shovels stuck to them. They had benches stuck to them, and they were just like, let's just keep going. And I made it so that nothing would wake up until they got to it. But they just kept going in because they're just like, well, this thing's just stuck to me and gnawing on me now. Let's just keep going forward. They kept walking forward. There's like 32 things that I had to like activate and turn order, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, you want to survive? Like, I'm not trying to punish you, but stop. Like, you know everything here. It's all mimics. I'll just tell you, it's all mimics. Like, you can't. They have so much health and they're just stuck to you. Stop.
Oops, all mimics.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I 100% from a player perspective would have kept walking in to make you have to activate everything. So I think they knew what they were doing.
It was incredible, because they weren't sad, they weren't upset, but they were just like, how do we solve this puzzle? And I'm like, there's no puzzle here. It's just a room full of mimics. I've told you the answer. You don't need to go roll an insight check. What'd you get? 5? It's just mimics. It's fine. You're good.
Oh man. It's as was foretold in chat, just said it's that meme of what the DM planned and what the players did on the milk jug with the lid, and they opened the side.
Yep.
You know, like the little screw top on one side, and yeah.
I'm guilty of that, to be honest. So.
Yeah.
Both as a player and a dairy drinker.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, this is probably a great place to pause and take a break. We've already made it through the first hour of our stream, so we're going to pause for a little bit here so everybody can refill drinks and all that good stuff, and we will be back shortly, so come on back. If we haven't answered your question yet, we will get to it right after the break, so we'll see you shortly.
So my why to help kids' health at KU Pediatrics is because of my cousin Teague. She has been battling cancer for a few years now, and she's 6, and I just can't wait till she becomes this amazing, incredible individual as an adult and has gone through that thanks to the support of people like you.
What are you doing? Mom, go get my toys. We're just going on the block in the hallway. That's your shade one. He even has like a peace weave in his hair. I know. You are so freaking silly, dude.
To the Extra Life community, thank you so much for helping kids like me treated at the IWK Health Center and TMN Hospitals.
Since 2008, Extra Lifers have raised millions of dollars to help kids treated at 170 children's hospitals in the U.S. and Canada. Those funds go directly to the hospital.
This is my 7th year, so about 7 years ago, he was like, "Oh, you should do this. The good cause, play games for 24 hours," and that's pretty much like the first time I ever streamed my entire life, and I was only doing it for Extra Life. But also, like, I've gone to Seattle Children's Hospital when I was in high school. When I did Extra Life, I chose to support Seattle Children's because of how great they are. They're really good for the kids.
Let's raise a lot of money for Blair Batson!
My favorite part of my children's hospital is the amazing staff that work there.
To change kids' health means to game for these kids that are like not having the best time of their lives right now. They're having to fight scary diseases, scary illnesses, some of them more rare than others. And we just do everything we can to help fundraise.
Hello, everyone. We are back from our break. Hope you had a good one. I know I did. And welcome in to all the raiders that just came in with Jess the Human. Hi, Jess. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for the raid. I know that you've been doing an amazing fundraiser this weekend, so I hope that was very successful. And yeah, we are just diving back in. So for everybody coming in with the raid that have never been here before, the way that this stream works is we take all of our questions from chat. So we are answering all questions about TTRPGs. So feel free to just drop your questions right in chat, and the moderators will make sure that we get them so we can answer your questions. All right. So let's dive back in. The next question that we have comes from Sky the Animal. And the question is, do you have examples of problems that you've corrected, such as bad players who got better or gameplay that you modified?
Not necessarily like bad players, but definitely learning how to steer player motivation. And I think straight up just telling them, you will level up if you once you obtain this sword or something. You need to figure out where that sword is and how to get it. And then they're like, oh, okay. Because I had a lot of players that were just kind of sitting in a tavern, like, I don't know what to do. Like, that looks dangerous. I'm like, okay, well, it's a game, so you should probably go do something. But when you start telling them they could level up, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go over there if it means I level up. I'm like, great, do it. So
amazing.
And then the players like it too, because they have a goal. They feel like they're moving forward with the game, you know.
One of my players came from a DM who was not great. And so this player had just developed a play style of, if they want something, they split from the party and go do it. And the player was, they thought that's what they had to do. So I ended up just 1 week at the end of a session, because I was getting so frustrated because they were split. The party was split yet again, and it was on different continents of the plane. So I just ended and I said, hey, next session we're not playing. We're having another session 0 because we need to talk this all out. And we ended up taking a whole session to do a session 0 part 2 and air out all of that stuff. And then I wasn't telling them that what they were doing was wrong. I was just saying it was making it difficult for everybody else. And now they don't do that, but they still get their storylines fulfilled and all that stuff. So, just pause your game and do a whole nother session 0. It is helpful as heck.
To add on to that, I would also say, if you haven't used the digital RPG consent form, very, very helpful for this. And to also revisit it, because people's triggers and traumas may shift over time. What, might be okay, at the start of the campaign might shift later on, or vice versa. And so you can never be too careful when it comes to checking in with your players in terms of trauma and triggers and what's going on in the storyline.
I've only ever GM'd once, actually. As a chronic player. I think that there are people who come in and they don't know what they can do. Like, because when you give some, like, kind of like you were saying, like, well, we just sit here in the tavern because we don't know what else we're supposed to be doing. I think there are some folks that come in that have all the ideas of everything that they could be. Kitty. Sorry. Do your fluffy kitty. And then there are some people, I mean, like, I have these moments too where it's like, okay, what do you do? And it's just dial-up modem trying to connect. You know what I mean? Like, you can't think of the thing. So encouraging people, I think, to like interact with each other and to kind of, it's a little bit meta game playing, but helping everyone with some ideas like, oh, your character could try to do this with that, or do you still have that thing? You know, and then like, oh yeah, that kind of coaching from the friend, other player level. And I know some DMs do not like that because it is a little bit meta. It's like, you're not there, you wouldn't know what, you know, to help them figure it out. But I really appreciate DMs who do allow you to do that, because then it's more collaborative storytelling and you don't get stuck in that hole where it's like, and then I don't know, as you can probably tell already, I'm a little bit of a nervous person, or I get kind of like to go. So if I'm sitting there and there's like 2 or 3 minutes where everyone's looking at me and I can't figure out what I should be doing, like I start to panic, my brain, that cat, and I get distracted.
Sorry.
No, my brain turns off. And then I can't do anything. And I really want a person or the DM or someone to give me a suggestion, give me a little bit of a poke, a carrot, or a stick, or whatever it is, like to help get the ball rolling. See, cat butt. That's what my cats do. As soon as they're on there, they're like, hey, world, let me show you my butthole.
That was embarrassing, Hank.
Yeah,
Come
Hank.
on, Hank.
Jeez. Get yourself together.
Sorry to
So-
distract from what you were saying. I heard everything you were saying.
Perfectly fine. I was laughing.
I don't think
It was
no.
actually
What
glorious.
you were talking? Like there was a cat.
What?
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
joking.
Wait, I was talking?
Yes, you went. Kitty,
I
kitty,
tuned
kitty.
out. All right. I remember that part.
Yeah.
Enabling players is crazy important and super awesome, and DMs that don't do it are probably not very good. But
I would agree.
for me, my biggest learning experience has actually come in the form of shutting down players, which is a weird take. I think that some players who know what their D&D experience is are very willing to push that upon everyone around them, and there are admittedly very fun ways to play the game that can be inherently really destructive to normal gameplay, and not even in a toxic way. So I think, again, like really obvious examples are players that are just like murder hobos, they just want to stab anything. Maybe it's because they just like killing stuff, and maybe it's because they're 15 and we all played D&D that way, you know, when we're like teenagers and you're like, there's no consequences in this game, cool, I can just murder everyone. But there are some players that like their idea of especially a long form D&D campaign is to apply like real world logistics to it, and like tear apart every dungeon that they're in to resell like nails and wood and scrap. And when they're all together doing that in their own friend group, that's great. But when they're also with people who are brand new to the game that don't understand pacing or are already trying to understand like what this fantasy could possibly mean for them, you get this really odd like clash. And it's just as bad as having someone in the group that like railroads a session where like it doesn't matter what room you're in, they're in that room with you at all points in time because they can't miss it out. So learning how to stop those players or pause them or design adventures in a way that stops that behavior from even being a factor in the adventure, without it obviously seeming like you're targeting them, because you're not. You're just trying to make a better experience for everyone equally. It's not easy, and I think that's been my biggest personal hurdle is figuring out how to navigate those situations.
Yeah, the quiet players who don't know how to speak up for themselves, but are also drowned out by the more experienced players who are like, well, no, okay, yeah. I've seen that a lot at tables where it's like, I'm going to tell you how to optimize your character the best way.
Oh, God,
and it's
I
like,
hate that.
how about we just let that person play their character and it doesn't really matter because
Yeah.
it's all just
Yep.
a game and we're laughing and having a good time. So
Yeah, or they
It's
tell you how many
definitely
attacks your
balanced.
monster has.
Yeah.
Or how much HP they should have had. Oh.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
This one was wearing a life vest so he can swim.
Yeah.
You have fun.
So there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Like,
tell 'em
how
the
does your
monster doesn't
mimic
care.
fly, Magic? What are you gonna do?
Right?
Yeah.
It's my game. No.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, kind of. You know, it's kind of. I know it's probably controversial, and I don't hold it against any rules lawyers or anybody who's like really wants to play by the book. If that's what your party, your group has decided that that's what you want to do, like do it. But I hate nitpicky rule. Like if my GM says you can't do that because literally it defies the laws of physics within this entire game, Shannon, you cannot do that. Like, okay, that makes sense. But like those nitpicky, like, oh, that I don't know, like the HP
Rules as written.
or
Yeah.
and especially for me in D&D, and I could go into that, but I don't like the D&D rules anyway because I find them limiting. So you know, like, yeah, I just it's cringy to me when people like, and it's that attitude too. Well, actually, the mimic has burr, 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 burr. And I'm like, okay, explain that to me again. That's fine.
Yeah, don't tell me a mimic can't be an outhouse. Not in this world.
I would rather they couldn't be, but I accept that it is.
They're like, no, I'm more confused why there's outhouses in this world. Like, shut up. Get out of here.
Y'all use the restroom in your world?
Right.
I mean, honestly, though, is there indoor plumbing in D&D? I'd never really thought about the infrastructure. I mean, I always assumed it was medieval, but maybe not. I mean, you've got magic. Why not?
World.
Like,
Right. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe you just magically never have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, that's fair. Gosh, you'd save so much. You matter how much of your life you'd get back if you didn't have to go to the bathroom. Like, added up
Ring
over life.
of
But are you
automatic
really living?
elimination.
Automatic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be so handy on like an airplane or, you know, like or during a long stream, you know,
Yeah.
Streaming, that's not a P joke.
Yeah.
yes, it is actually. Oh God. Yeah. Lord Richter just says we do it in all the campaigns I've been in, but it's like it's off camera, like on TV. Yeah. Your characters only pee in the downtime in between sessions.
That tracks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There was I don't really partake in a lot of Critical Role things, but they had the like a DM's roundtable of the 3 DMs who have now gone through Critical Role with Matt Mercer, Bria Iyengar, and Brennan Lee Mulligan. And one of the things that they said about, like, for example, running the setting of Tal'Dorei in your home game is like sitting your players down in session 0 and saying, all of this is my version. And like, you may think that you know, but like, this is my version of all of this.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me stop for a second and be like, wow, that'd be way easier than having to tell someone. I mean, maybe the mimic didn't have as many hit points because it got in a fight with another party already.
Well, and I think it's the same problem with any fan franchise. Like, it's like, okay, I want to run a Dresden Files game, or I want to do this. And somebody's like, I really want to play in that because I'm so familiar with that setting, or with those books, or with whatever. And then when you realize that this person isn't latching on, like the person running the game has a different view of the fandom than you do, it's kind of like, oh, well, now I don't want to do that. And it kind of makes me sad because I have DMs who won't run the Forgotten Realms with me because of my YouTube channel. And they won't run Eberron because of my YouTube channel. And it's like, well, Jordan just knows too much about it. I don't want him to be like, oh, you're getting something wrong. And I'm like, no, like, get something wrong. Like, who cares? I still like this. Like, I'll recognize a city or something, and that's like really fun. But it can be like frustrating. You're like, okay, I'm gonna run. I guess keep going to Dresden Files, but I'm gonna run a Dresden Files game, and then people are like, well, I'm upset that this person's not here or this person's not here, or why are we in this town rather than this town? And so, or magic doesn't work like that. And you're like, well, it does in mine. So just try to have fun.
I helped somebody set up a Star Wars campaign, and that was one of the things.
Exactly that franchise. Yeah,
yep. That was one of the things that before it even went to like finding players, the first thing that he established was, this is my version of Star Wars. It is a non-canon version. And so when he finally put the call out for players, that was one of the things that was like right from the get-go was you will not be a Force user in this game. Like, this is a non-canon version. So if you're coming into this thinking you are going to play The Empire Strikes Back, no, you're not, you know? So, yeah.
And it's weird because you put restrictions like you can't be a Force user. And I bet there's a lot of people that are like, well, then I won't play your game.
Yeah.
And the person running it's probably like, well, that's good because you're then the type of person I don't want at my table because you don't want to play the type of game I want to run. Right. We're at opposites. We probably just shouldn't play this particular game together.
Right.
But so many people walk away and they're just like, I can't believe Jordan wouldn't run what's Star Wars without Force? And it's like, well, you like the world differently than I do. So
yeah,
and both are valid, but it's like when you don't see that point of view, it can get frustrating.
Yeah, and that
Star Wars is a scary fandom to even touch on.
Yeah.
Like
Star Wars,
in any respect. Like, it gets scary out there with Star Wars, and then there's also the people that are like, oh, well, I decide what canon is, and it's this book, and this book, but not this movie or series, or this doesn't count. And like, I could see how GMing that would be exceedingly, I don't know. It just makes me anxious just hearing a conversation about Star Wars these days. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
People are going to start yelling at each other.
Overwhelmingly, building your own world, like playing in a homebrew world, is more popular than trying to play in established worlds, which always confused me because I guess I have a hard time coming up with lots of cities and things like that, but you steal like an artist and make it work. But yeah, I played in lots of other games with other people and they're like, oh yeah, I have my own homebrew world. And I'm like, what? You just made that? Like, I'm not that creative, but good job. And yeah, Jason in chat, I won't let you play a Sith mimic in my game. Sorry.
That's it. I'm out.
Yeah.
Is that a mimic that is like in the corporeal shape of like some humanoid Sith, or is it someone pretending to be a Sith? Like, what is a Sith mimic? I need to know. Like, is it? Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's a mimic who happens to be a Sith.
Yeah.
And a Sith who happens to be a mimic.
Lord
all
Mimic.
the above.
Yeah.
Lord Mimic. Lord Mimic.
Part of the
fan art go.
Get it.
Part of the like dissonance, I think, with having like a homebrew world versus running a pre-established world, at least as a GM/DM, is getting things wrong. I think it's super scary when you're a DM and you're already trying to entertain a group of people and you're trying to immerse them, and you don't know that Baldur's Gate has 2 giant statues that hang out in it, and the player's like, hey, can I go visit the statues? Or sorry, like Waterdeep. And like you don't know that lore. So now you're like scrambling to like keep those parts of the world that are real to them and should be real. It's tough. And there's so many stories in some places like Star Wars, right? Like Forgotten Realms, where the sheer volume of information that exists means that if you're not a part of that fandom or part of that culture, then you just won't know, like, and you don't want to ruin that for a player.
Well, even if you do know like 90% of something, you know, everybody kind of, when you read Forgotten Realms or watch a show or a series or whatever, people really glom onto the like something specific to them that they notice. Like, I can be super familiar with a fandom, and then somebody will be like, "Oh, do you remember that episode where went blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, "I don't actually, but I've watched that series 15 times back to back." You know, like, how are you going to know what random statue was in the fountain in the middle of, you know, wherever that's got to be very difficult.
Yeah, but like on the flip side, you can very easily say like, hey, this is the setting is Forgotten Realms, or the setting is Star Wars, but you are on this place in this part of the world at this specific time, and anything else we'll get to as we get to. Like, just tell me about your character beforehand, so I can figure out a little bit of what to say.
Oh, that's 100% what I did in my campaign that I GM. It's a forgotten, but you're on a continent that's across that ocean, like where the map kind of cuts off. Like, you're in a continent over here. And so I've built this, but then they get to like travel sometimes there, and they still get to go to all the different planes, like the Feywild. Recently they went to the elemental plane of fire. Like, as I learn things, they travel outside of it, but they're on a different continent.
I've done the same thing with mine as well. Inspired by Faerun and, islands off the coast, and even incorporating some of the older history into it, but more so from like, this is what happened at one point in time, then a different cataclysm happened, and now we have this total spin-off. And at some point, if I learn enough about this one section, just like you, they may end up going into that area or that plane or, that segment of, history, but would be their present day.
Let's see. Mordred82 in chat just said, when it comes to an established setting, I advise players that details may change due to story or my bad memory. Do not expect 100% accuracy. Totally fair.
That is a good one. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Or the number of times I've had to come up with something off the top of my head, and then I forget to write it down, and then the players come back and remind me, and I say,
Yeah.
Yeah, back there. They're still there. They're still there. I didn't mention them because you already knew it.
Their presence now is just implied.
Yes.
Lord Richter says, if you have a player with all that knowledge, you have him describe the established setting. Put that dork to work.
There was
my wiki.
Yeah.
There was a campaign that my partner was running, and he would have us as players give the recap for what happened to the last session. And if we remembered, that's great. He would roll with it. If we didn't remember, it's like it didn't even happen. So he definitely made us work harder.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played games like that where the players had to give the recap, and it was based on die roll, so you never knew who was going to be giving the recap. And I know that my notes were meticulous.
I remember you guys doing that.
Yeah.
And it gave me anxiety watching it because I don't remember like that.
Yeah.
Like it and my notes make no sense. Like, okay,
yeah, it got
pickle
to the
in the
point
bush.
where,
What is this? What is that? Is that dirty? Is it not dirty? What is that? You know, like I have no idea.
Like I would be like, wait, I know it's my turn, but I'm trying to make a note.
Right.
I fought a guy who punched himself in the crotch. Yeah.
I also have ADHD, but not the kind that allows me to take notes. And so I never take notes. And every game I play, the players do the recap. Somebody told me that's a good idea so that your players tell you what was important to them because that's what they remember. And I latched onto that a lot.
That's a great
idea. I like that.
That is.
As a group recap. Like when everyone's kind of, because I can do that. If you say like, oh, do you remember this? Then all of it comes back and I'll remember all of the things and I can run with it. But like in the situation that Luna's talking about, if I remember correctly, it was live, it was on air, and it was one person and it was random on the die and it was the beginning of the game. And I didn't even play that game, and I'm in the audience, like, trying to watch, going, like, oh my god, that would be my worst nightmare ever.
And then you'd have the weeks where, like, the same person would get it, like, 4 weeks in a row.
And when there was a couple of people that, like, were they were really good at it, you know, like, that probably would have enjoyed doing it all the time. But, yeah, I didn't like that particular one. Like I said, I was a stressed out audience member when I was watching you play that.
That's all right. I was a stressed out player.
Right.
I have secondhand anxiety about that. But one one of my fellow players also ends her part of the recap by saying, "And that's what you missed on Glee." And it is the best way to start a session. Absolutely love it.
Love it.
That's funny. Bat Duck in chat just said, do the recap. Me plays the rerun for the DM.
Ah.
Yes.
And Lord Richter says, I have 2 characters in a row kept a journal of my character's adventures. The current one is actually a ledger, and that is turned into the source for the game. I've actually done that before.
Bless people like you. I mean, honestly, I just can't. I buy a notebook for every single time, and I kid you not, there's maybe a page and a half. Like, I start with such good intentions.
Yeah.
Same.
Same here.
I'm always like,
So
if
much
I get a really cool notebook to take notes in, then they're going to be really neat, and I'm going to know what they mean. And then I'm like, I can't write in this notebook.
It's too pretty.
Crap,
I
so-
have the multicolored.
You want it to look so
pens.
cool, but then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, it's I don't. Yeah, I do the same
This was
thing.
my vampire one, Luna.
Oh.
Like, I think that's as far as I got. And that was after, like, 6 months. You know, and then it went away. Oh, there's another campaign in there. So, yeah.
So
I love my note-taking players, but I value them a whole bunch because even as a DM, I don't take as good of.
this is not related to note taking, but this is in reference to the game that Shannon was just talking about. Shannon, remember that Claudia was a werewolf? She was the only werewolf in the
Vampire
party.
Masquerade.
So she knit to get out her aggression with knitting needles that looked like this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, this was literally the scarf that I worked on stream while she would be knitting.
It's the anger management strategy.
Oh,
we
that's
doubled his
good.
vampire stakes just in case.
I was just gonna say that's what they look like.
That's why
Yeah.
she had them. Yeah.
I believe they were employed at one point.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was good. All right, let's see. We have a question from Dire Pineapple. And the
Oh, I love
question
that
is
name.
Great name.
I know.
Can I confess before you read the question?
Yes.
That's my partner.
Hi,
Hey, boo.
right? Hi, partner. Okay, well then, we're all gonna get real sad in just a second.
Oh no.
What is your most memorable PC death? Yeah.
I'll go.
Aside-
I'll go real quick because I was actually excited. This is going to sound strange. It was my first PC death ever, and it was like I saw that as wow. I played long enough that my character died, and it was because our party stood around arguing in the middle of an open field, trying to figure out which way we're going to go to get to the mountain we needed to get to. He was rolling dice on the side, didn't know what it meant at the time. Next thing you know, we were attacked, and I think everybody died, but he triggered something because of my character that we were able to like res everybody afterward also. And so, but yeah, I was weirdly excited that, oh my gosh, my first character death.
I get that. There was okay. So other than one shots, which I always take kind of the opportunity in a one shot game, it's like okay, well I'm never gonna play this character again. So if I have to die with a character, let's do it with this character, or you know I don't mind throwing myself on the bomb or whatever, you know, because it's no big thing. But we had a exalted campaign, the one that we ended up rolling a gazillion dice on because we just kept leveling up, and I think it was. We played for quite a few years, and my character had gone from like a recruit in the military, gone through the whole thing, and had her own legion and army and all of that jazz. And like through the whole thing, like she ended up having a son, which wasn't really part of a whole lot of it. But then he disappeared somehow, and I don't remember what happened, but got like possessed by the big bad guy, and then killed me. Like at the end of the thing. So and this was before I had kids, so it wasn't as probably impactful because I didn't really like kids before I had kids. But like, it was really terrible. I cried. I think it was 20, maybe 21. So, you know, I'm emotional anyway. who am I kidding? But like then it was booger sobbing, snot bubbles, like very upset. I went outside, and I wish I hadn't have done this because I would have kept my character sheet, but I burned my character sheet and like let the ashes go, like this whole thing.
Very
it
dramatic.
was oh girl. Well, like I said, I'm 36 and I'm still dramatic. Imagine me at 20, Luna. But no, that was the whole thing, and I don't think I've actually lost a long-term character since then because I'm kind of like super careful now. But it hurt. Like, it still makes me sad.
I haven't had a character die. I guess I run too many games. Unless it was something like a one-shot or a Dungeon Crawl Classics game where you have lots of deaths. But I haven't had that emotional, like, I love this character, and then, yeah, usually they end on the ones that are memorable are the ones that ended very well. And it's like, I probably won't play that character again because the story kind of ended, but they definitely walked off into the sunset, and it was like, oh, good job. Like, you did it. I've killed a lot of characters. Player characters, but yeah, I haven't.
He says with a smile, I killed a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, their decisions really forced my hand, is what's.
It's true. It's never your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not.
And it still hurts. I still remember the first PC that had to die, and I cried as the DM. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I know that people have seen this stream a lot of times, have probably heard me talk about this, but the most memorable PC death that I've ever had was I was playing a centaur. She was the strongest person in the group, and we were in like a, catacomb, whatever. And we go into this room, and there's a sarcophagus, which everybody knows you don't open the sarcophagus, but my character didn't know that, so she opens the sarcophagus because she's the only one in the party that's strong enough to do that, and out pops a vampire who casts Slay Living. That was fun. My ex-husband was the DM.
Rude.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we were married at the time, so it was even more rude. I
was gonna make a joke like, well, and that's what happened.
Oh,
That's
I've made the joke before. I was like, and that was part of the grounds for divorce. No, but no, I didn't cry. I got really mad. Like scary mad, and like had to leave the table. It was not pretty. It was not one of my finer moments.
When it's so instant like that, and there's really just like nothing you can do, it's frustrating. I mean, it's frustrating feeling helpless at all, but like really, like that's it, and there's nothing else that can be done, and I just opened a box and now my character's dead. Yeah. Like, that's lame. Like, you can be like maimed or seriously hurt, or like your favorite magical sword gets melted or something like that. That's a frustrating punishment, but your whole character?
Yeah.
Literally the only time I've had a PC die was something very similar, except it was a one-shot, so I had no attachment to this character. Also, I had no emotional attachment to this GM because they had been being terrible from the beginning, and it took us way too long to like leave the game. But we were playing a one-shot, just like taking a break, and something happened, and then my character died, and I was like, oh, no deaths. Okay, no deaths. Okay, I'm just gonna stay here for the rest of the game. And then they tried to do like a post-credit scene of like my character being resurrected, and I was like, no, I don't care. Like, oops, you did something stupid and you killed my character. You can't. No, it's the only player death I've had emotional departures, but the characters are still alive in my heart.
Oh, there she goes.
Oh, emotional departure.
She almost made, yeah, right? I mean, she was so sad.
That was on cue.
Right.
Her internet felt it.
I know. Yeah. Her internet just felt so sad.
It departed.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. All right, let's see. We are going to try to sneak in one more question before we run out of time for the evening. So,
already?
I I know. We're getting really close. So this one comes from Sky the Animal again. And this one is best magical entrance, easiest magical entrance that a muggle wouldn't figure out. My example, a 10-foot square that is magically shadowed, but you can see through it to the other side. You would have to touch the wall to know of the entrance to the wizard's residence.
This is easy. An outhouse mimic that's actually just an outhouse.
10 points. Good job.
Done.
Yep.
Yes.
That's it.
Game-winning score.
Yeah, well, all right, good. I'm glad we asked that question.
I refuse to go after that.
Is that the episode title, though? Is it going to be Outhouse Mimic?
Outhouse
It is
mimic,
now.
yeah.
I like silly word things where I'm thinking of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where it's like the secret to flying is falling and then missing the ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I wonder if you could have something like that. It's like, well, it's the portal's here, but like you have to lean forward and like not hit the ground. And it's like, well, how do I not? I don't know. You just have to miss. Like, good luck. And so when there's not really an answer, but the players have to kind of like talk through it and probably hurt themselves a couple times to like, how do I get through this? But
Oh, that's so good. I
You
just
run
ran my
fast enough
players.
at the tree. Maybe you'll get through.
I guess that is kind of Harry Potter-ish though, like the platform where you're like, okay, just run really hard. So
I just ran my players through Sigil, the City of Doors, and did not think of anything as cool as all of this stuff. So I'm about to send the players back with all of your ideas.
Part duh.
Right.
Part
yeah.
duh. You forgot something. No, I'm kidding.
I love entrances that don't necessarily make sense. Like not even like in a fall and hit the ground or miss the ground kind of way, but like I like having like a puddle on the ground, and the only clue is that like you'll see a rabbit like fall into it and then not come out. So obviously like something else is down there. Anything that's super weird that it probably looks really dangerous, like a mushroom circle into the Feywild, but it's surrounding like a hole. Is that gonna work? Is it just regular mushrooms? I don't know.
or like food. That just made me think of something. Like I have this spaghetti. You're gonna eat it. You're gonna fall asleep and wake up in like Sigil, the City of Doors, or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're gonna
Or eat
feel
that
terrible
mushroom.
too. But like, or the mushroom, yeah. And then you could say, was it all a dream? Oh man, you'll never know.
Oh man.
Except I have this tattoo. Like, okay.
Oh gosh, that's so good.
I had a character
I am going to
who
take all
loved
of
to
it.
cook, and she would go hunting mushrooms in like the oddest places. That was her thing.
Nice.
Well, mushrooms grow in the oddest places, so that tracks.
Yeah.
Like on the back of a noggle beetle.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Which you can get from Underground Oracle. Hashtag not sponsored.
Or like we say on our channel, not sponsored, but could be.
Yeah. I mean, they did, and so I will throw this out that obviously people can still donate to Extra Life. There's a link down below. And if you contribute $5, you can get a supplement from Underground Oracle. I'll just throw that out there. So there you go. They write for $5 just in case anybody's interested.
When you said supplement, I was thinking like a vitamin
supplement. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I was thinking like it was a cordyceps joke, you know, that like the cordyceps mushroom gets into like the ant or the bug, and then it like zombifies it.
It
and
is
then
like a
throws
vitamin
out its
supplement for your D&D game. It will make your game stronger. I need to crop that and send it to them.
Yes, do it.
Luna's got money
Do
signs
it.
in her
Right? I
eyes.
know.
Cha-ching.
No, I really don't. I wouldn't do that to Jess and Keith. They're too nice. All right, we are starting to run out of time. So what I would like to do is I would like to go back around, have everybody just remind us of who they are, what you got going on, and where we can find you on social media, and tell us let's see. What do I want to have you tell us? Tell us, Adam, I'm going to give you a bye on this one. Tell us what flavor is a gelatinous cube. So, we're going to go in the opposite order of when we started. So, Nekla, we're going to start with you.
Hi, I'm Nekla the Druid on all the Twitter spaces. A gelatinous cube is green apple, because I'm going to pull a Skittles moment. Just kidding. I feel like they are like the jellies of, like, there's all the flavors. Like, you just got to go into the right dungeon and find. Man, I would demolish a strawberry gelatinous cube. I love strawberry. Anyway. Oh, Lord Richter just said they're all watermelon flavored, and now I'm on board with that. I love water. Okay, so anyway, what I do, I am the community manager over at T4C. We're about to launch our channel, and I am also an extended family member at Good Better Quest, to which I am taking over at the end of August to run a charity stream, where we will be playing the game that dear friend of the tavern, Vertrox Nightblood, wrote, called Weave Racers. So look forward to announcements about that. And also, if you're interested, we are still looking for playtesters, because we've thrown in a whole bunch of different mechanics and different worlds you can drop it into. So we're kind of just trying to playtest them all.
Awesome.
But you can reach out to me on Twitter, probably Twitch. I just don't check it enough. And if you're interested in playing, and I'll be there.
Yay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Nekla, for coming and hanging out tonight. It's always a pleasure to get to chat, and I'm glad we got to catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
Jamie.
Are we all answering this gelatinous cube question?
We are, yes.
Okay. Well, so I actually had a gelatinous cube bar soap from a Kickstarter, and I did pick the lime flavor, but then I had to buy a second one because one I have to keep forever.
Right.
And then the other one I used. But if I had to pick, I would say it's like the not so great gummy bears, where you taste the different flavors, but they kind of all still taste the same. So maybe a little fruity, maybe not, a little mysterious, like, that's what I think a gelatinous cube would taste like. Okay, so Jamie Mansour, also on Twitch, Jamie Moonchild, on Twitter, Moonlight Gamer, and that's Moonlight with an Lite. I'm also on Instagram as Moonlit Mystery. And what am I up to? So what I'm up to is eventually working on bringing my pre-colonial Hawaii-inspired world to life, most likely through podcast with my awesome team of Indigenous players. This is a world that was inspired by Hawaiian culture, the different cultures, Polynesian cultures present in Hawaii, and also the modern sovereignty movement. And so very much leaning into decolonizing D&D, literally, as they're eventually going to have a chance to fight off the colonizers and see what they can do to save their islands.
Awesome. You definitely just caught the attention of Bat Duck in chat, because Bat Duck is in Hawaii.
That's right. Yes. Oh, we need to talk.
Yes. Oh, interesting. Okay. He's like, I'm checking Facebook right now. Okay. So, yes, Jamie, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out. It was great to finally get you on. We've been talking about doing this for a very long time. So,
we have.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. Jordan with a silent PH in the middle.
Hi.
Hi.
I just keep thinking of Ralph Wiggum when he ate some berries, and they're like, "What does it taste like, Ralph?" He's like, "It tastes like burning." So I think a gelatinous cube probably tastes like burning.
Probably.
I don't know. Is that a fun answer? I threw a Simpsons reference. I don't know. I'm not invited back. It's fine.
It's like echoing in my brain chamber. Just, it tastes like burning. Yeah. So I'm happy.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I have a silent PH in my name. I do D&D lore. You can find me. There's my dog. Hi, dog. I'm Jordan with a PH on all the social medias, except I don't TikTok, but you can find me there. I do Instagram and all that stuff. I have the YouTube channel, but I have a second one called Jordan's Jocular Junction, which is much smaller, where I do a lot of indie RPGs. I just released a video today on Skate Wizards, where you're a skateboarding wizard. Very fun zine. It's hilarious. It's very, very fun because wizards can't die, but you can turn into a poser, and then your friends have to like cool you back up so that you could like. It's so good.
It's worse than death.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I run a weekly podcast called the Saturday Morning D&D Show, which is live on Twitch and YouTube every Saturday morning. So if you want to wake up with us, you can listen to us live and chat with us. We just kind of cover tabletop role-playing game news and kind of recap the games that we're running and or playing in. And that's been a lot of fun. We just did like episode, I don't know, like 200 something. We've been doing it for a while, so we've got lots of stuff to listen to. There's also a podcast on Anchor if you are into podcasts.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's me. So there you go. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun to get to meet you and get to chat a little bit. So it was great. Yeah. Shannon.
Yeah. So my initial thought was lime. I think just the green color, which clearly some soap making geniuses concurred. So I feel validated. So thank you for that. But maybe it's booger flavor. You know, like the Birdie Bots every flavored jelly beans.
Yeah.
The booger. You know, they're usually green, right? Like that's usually you see them green when they're depicted. I know they can probably come in all sorts of colors, but I'm putting my money on booger. Salty, weird booger. What were we supposed? Yeah, I'm Glitz Gamer. If you ever want some weird, overly talkative ADHD girl on your show, I'm usually fun to hang out with. Especially if you can railroad a person. I do not like awkward silence, or I don't like silence at all. That's what this is all about. So if you need someone to fill the dead air, I am your gal. I love playing. And every Thursday, I'm on Roll for Chaos, playing Aether and Steamworks, indie game built by my wonderful husband, RF Chaos. I don't even know what he goes by these days. He goes by stuff.
Both.
I know, it's so confusing. My husband Ty. And I want to. One of these days, I'm not a person of color, Jamie, but I would love to play a game where we get to destroy the colonizers. I feel like that would be something that would heal my soul. And so if that's ever an option, I would love to play that game. Yeah, that's me. I'm weird. And Luna is amazing. And thank you again for having me on the show.
You're amazing. And I love when we get to hang out, and we don't get to do it nearly often enough. So
this is true.
It's true. Thank you so much for coming on and hanging out. It's always a pleasure. And Adam, we'll wrap it up with you.
Yeah. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Mint. Mint is the flavor, and it's not because they're delicious. They're not for consumption.
That's a very good answer. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
they're the Roombas of the dungeon. So they sweep through, they get rid of all that stuff, and then you've got this nice wintergreen, fresh flavor in your catacomb, your lair. Like, I'm sure you could substitute out if you want Citrus Blast or something. They'll do it all, right? Like that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
Your teeth are so clean, like after with a gelatinous cube. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The mini gelatinous cube.
Like a breath mint.
If you own the dungeon, as long as
they don't taste like booger.
Why not?
Womp womp.
Who needs a mouth guard when you have a mimic?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Perfect.
There you go.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as 34th Gingerbread. I'm pretty easy to find. I'm writing tabletop RPG stuff. I mostly DM locally, so I'm do a whole bunch of stuff for my local game store, but I'm trying to produce supplements, content, adventures that can be applied to anywhere and anything, just to make the game a little bit more inclusive for new and veteran players alike. I do comic work as well and some independent narrative work. So if you follow me, you'll see a little bit of everything. And thanks for having me, Luna. I always appreciate being here.
Yeah, I always love getting to have you on, and I knew you would come back with the Dungeon Roomba answer, and I'm glad you did. You did not disappoint there. And and people in chat are discovering that I am not the only 2 degrees of separation between people now, apparently. Okay. So, I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. We are here every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, answering questions from chat with a different group of guests every week. Let's see, anything coming up? Well, right now it's going to be just Tales from the Tavern until I have this little Dungeons and Dragons game coming up on August 19th. It's going to be streamed. It also happens to be my birthday, so you all better come and watch. We're still going to be raising money for Extra Life that night, and it's going to be me. It's going to be Chris, who is the DM for Discount Dungeons. It's going to be Patch. It's going to be Big Bees, and it's going to be Jess Pendley from Underground Oracle. And the DM is none other than Mr. B. Dave Walters. So,
you got it scheduled! Yes!
So we're still working on coordinating a time, but that's going to be right here. So please come back. Keep an eye on Twitter for all of the details. I am beside myself excited, and I can't wait for that. So we're really excited to bring that to all of you. So keep an eye out on all social media for that. Otherwise, we are going to go raid Indigo Chameleon, who is playing some Dungeons and Dragons tonight.
Yeah.
And we will see you all next Sunday night when we're back with another group of guests for Tales from the Tavern. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Tales from the Tavern. You can catch this podcast recorded live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/GamerMomLuna. All of our questions come directly from chat, so we never really know what to expect when we go live. If you ever have a question or would like to add something to the conversation, feel free to reach out on Twitter at GamerMomLuna and use the hashtag TFTT. You may just get to hear it answered. Thanks so much.
I should go.